folks. Welcome back inside the Parisi Palace, high above 2919 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, coming to you live on Power Talk 1210. Please go to powertalk1210.com and download the app. We are full-on extraterrestrial radio, streaming worldwide. So happy you could make us part of your day today. Without further ado, it's great to introduce to the program a spirit and one of the greatest guitarists in the world, Makoto Horiuchi. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Good morning, Jake, or I guess it's afternoon.
Yeah, well, have another espresso, and good afternoon, brother man.
Yeah, I need another espresso.
Hey, it's great to connect with you, Makoto. I just wanted to start by asking you about if you could paint a picture for us of the kind of cultural bias that your family faced as Japanese immigrants. I know you wound up in Boulder because Colorado was one of the most friendly states to immigrants, and I find that we're still fighting this battle today, but I was hoping you could talk a little bit about your memories of that.
Well, I remember when I was real young, the war was still on, so there was a lot of discrimination against Asians. It didn't matter what kind of an Asian you were, right? And it was just, among my peers, there were, kids don't discriminate, but it was like in the neighborhood, the older people. So, but I noticed it when I was a kid.
Can you give an example?
My dad bought his first house, and some of the neighbors, sent a petition around to stop the house from being sold. Stuff like that. So,
did you were you aware of the Naropa Institute at all?
Naropa Institute.
That was where Kerouac and Ginsberg were in the University of Colorado Boulder area. That's where a lot of the beat.
The Tibetan monk. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
No, I mean not even. That's where a lot of the beat poets set up shop. Was in. And I wasn't sure if you were around or even still in Colorado when that institute. I don't know. I'm going to look it up, but I don't know when that institute took over. But Boulder now is a very progressive town. But I'm just trying to figure out what it was like back then.
Boulder was always progressive, but we moved to Denver because my parents needed a job. Right, they moved to Colorado because the Navy was going to have them teach officers Japanese, and then they got there and they decided it was a security risk.
Wow.
So then my dad moved to Denver and tried to find a job. I guess he had a very hard time doing that too.
Is that, would you say, how old were you when you moved to Denver?
Oh, probably about 3 or something like that. I barely remember. That's just from accounts from my mom.
Right. But then you wound up, I just want to figure out how you wound up to be roommates with Larry Coryell in Washington.
Oh, so then when I got time to go to college, I wanted to leave, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, you did.
Actually, my high school days were pretty. I mean, kids don't discriminate,
Sure, I think that's a very good point. Actually, it really comes from the older generation. Kids kids are not born to hate, and they're
exactly.
taught that. It's very succinct. So that's a very good point.
Yeah. And then so I decided to go to University of Washington because all my relatives were up there. And so I ended up in the dorm, and that's where I met Larry. We kind of just, started listening to music together, and then I found out he was a guitar player and he was playing in all these bands. So I just started hanging out with him. And, the scene at that time was, I don't know if he told you, he might not have told you about the bands he was with at the time.
No, please fill me in. I mean, the thing about Coryell said, I transcribed one thing where he said he was in a organ trio and he knew he did not have the chops yet to play. So please fill in the blanks there. What kind of bands was he in?
Well, he was playing with it was kind of like Seattle has a certain flavor. Even the rock bands have a certain flavor, and it's like at that time it was kind of cross funk and rock,
Mm-hmm.
and it's called the Dynamics, and it was one of the biggest bands in Seattle, and they played all these different ballrooms. There was a lot of ballrooms at that time in Seattle, and I remember driving down to, where was it, Klamath Falls with Larry, and there was a ballroom down there, and they played, Dynamics played opposite the Wailers. Remember I don't know, or you wouldn't remember the Wailers. They had a hit called Louie Louie.
Sure. Yeah.
From that period. Yeah, that was one there.
What was the instrumentation in the Dynamics?
Wow. I remember the leader was a saxophone player who eventually went to, I can't remember his name. He went to North Texas State, and then he came back, and then they had some kind of blues band. And one of my friends, Jim Gardner, said that was one of the best bands in the city at the time. And Jim, I don't know, have you ever talked to Jim?
No, I have not.
Jim's a pretty interesting guy. He was Philip Wu's and Kenny G's high school band teacher.
Right.
And he came down to the Bay Area, he married one of the Levi's and opened up a studio in Berkeley. And then he divorced his wife and opened his own studio in Oakland. I think it's called Pajama Studios. Yeah.
I guess
anyway.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about that time. I've chronicled, I've interviewed Marty Ballin from the original Jefferson Airplane, and I've talked to a lot of cats. LSD was legal at that time when you met Coriel. Were you guys tripping out a lot?
Not until I hit New York.
Can you talk about a definitive? I guess two-part question. Can you talk about a memorable acid trip, and then ultimately how it impacted your consciousness and also your improvisational abilities on the guitar? Where the ideas that it might have given you to take you to different areas.
Well, the whole. I mean, everybody was taking drugs at the time, right?
When you say everybody, you're talking square cats too that didn't know it. I mean, everybody is that's a lot of people, because drugs have been marginalized seriously now. I'm just talking about one of my theories is that there were just a lot of square cats that dosed or got dosed, and it really helped with their introspection, and it helped them with humility. It helped them with their ego. So when you say everybody, you're not just talking about the musicians. You're talking about everybody.
Well, I remember when we met the airplane one time, and they gave us some of the, I think it was called Owsley at the time.
Sure. Owsley was the
and that started the whole. I experimented with it, but I didn't take that much of it. I remember seeing Coltrane one time on acid.
Oh my God! This is where the rubber meets the road. Break this down. Where?
Oh man, it was at the Village Vanguard, right? And I had befriended. Oh, what was this guy's name? Max Gordon, I think it was the owner.
Max was absolutely, yep.
And so I had befriended him, and he would, give me a discount because he knew I didn't have money. And so I went there when Coltrane was playing with. It was the Rashid Ali version.
Wow.
With Alice and Farrell. And when he played, I could see his I call it chi or key coming out of his horn.
Wow.
You could see it. It was just amazing.
Can you spell that word? What did you say? Would you see coming out of his horn?
Like ki, like in martial arts, you have something called ki, like in
Oh, I know it is chi. You say ki.
and chi is
Chi.
Chinese, the Chinese word for it, and ki is
So you
Japanese.
you saw the key coming out of his horn. What can you possibly put that into words? That is so awesome because that I know that chi, and my wife is Taiwanese, so I pronounce it the Chinese way. And that chi,
Right.
when it's shrouded inside of me, it's not a good feeling. But when that energy is solid, it's incredibly transcendent. I mean, what was that about? That's crazy.
Well, ki energy is the energy that you have inside of you, right?
Right.
That I call it like universal energy. It's the same. It's the same energy that I think I read one of your interviews with Miroslav. He was talking about universal playing music and
Yeah, it wasn't about
tapping into the
absolutely.
universe.
Yeah, well, playing from the heavens. Yeah.
Yeah, playing from the heavens, right? And that's the same thing that martial artists get into, except they use that energy to bust heads up, right?
Right, and stay focused because they might be laying some haymakers and the guy's not going down, so they gotta keep woodshedding. But continue, please.
Yeah, so that's the same, and it's also the same energy that qigong and a healing art that I study uses to heal people.
Do you
So-
can you talk about that? You brought up the music from the heavens, the music coming through you. Can you talk about your musical relationship with Eric Gravatt and if that exists within your playing? I noticed you guys had a really hip kind of band with a female singer, and the two of you were just kind of in this cool, funky groove, but you were definitely on the same. You were operating on the same frequency.
Yeah. Well, he and I are kind of like brothers of the universe.
I love it.
I met Eric, and
Oh, I'm sorry. It was called the Little Yellow Slut by the Hurricane.
oh wow, oh that was Jessica Hagedorn's group.
Yeah. So the Makoto Horiuchi.
It's called the Gangster Choir.
The,
Actually, I don't think Gravatt was the drummer on that group.
he sure was. No, I'm looking at this live.
He was, huh?
I'm looking at this live performance, August 28th, 2011. Eric Kamu Gravatt on drums, Isaku Kagiyama on taiko drums and percussion, a guy named Shido on bass, Glenn Pearson on.
Oh, that one. Oh, we did a benefit. That's a poetess I know from Tokyo.
I just really thought that was super creative. But anyway, talk about. I mean, you're talking about, Trip and Face, seeing Coltrane, but talk about playing music with Gravatt. I mean, how did you become Soul Brothers?
Well, we met. It was a group of artists and musicians that met in the early '70s, and it was Jessica Hagedorn, Eric Gravatt, and Trelawney, and Entozaki was part of that group. I don't know if you know who.
No, you're blowing my mind. Right? I don't know. I have no idea who these guys are, dude.
Entozaki Shange wrote a play for it was called For Colored Girls Only.
Okay.
That became a big hit, and and then Jessica also became very. She went to New York and did the public theater. Did the public theater and became very well known poet and writer. She has books out now.
I know her. No, I know her very well.
Mm-hmm.
But this collective, where did you meet, and how did you and Eric connect?
Well, we were all part of that group. Another person was David
Johnson.
David Johnson.
David Johnson. Yeah.
Amazing player. And he went off into Sufism.
Which is a very I love that. I love Sufism.
Yeah, he runs a Sufi center in Santa Cruz now. Really a wonderful person, yeah. And so that group of artists, we all got together and tried to get funding, and we never did. It was always, I think as musicians, you're always chasing some kind of funding to survive, right?
Sure.
Whether it's gigs or whatever.
Would you say that the music was too abstract, and that's why you couldn't get the funding?
Yeah, a lot of it was way ahead of the time,
In what sense?
Just the whole concept of the music. Like, did you get a chance to listen to any of that Marine Intrusion stuff?
Not with hard listening. No.
Yeah. Well, once you hear that, you'll understand. And I don't think. I mean, we were just playing what we were hearing, and there was groups like Weather Report, the first iteration of Weather Report that Cravat played in, but then it turned, and then it turned, the music turned more into away from the the really out kind of stuff to
more black, kind of like black funk kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I did. But Cravat actually was the second drummer, right? I mean, Alphonse Mouzon was the original drummer.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Because I just found out how he got fired from the band by Wayne. I told you that story by Wayne. But but I would like you to talk about on the bandstand. I mean, I mean, I think you're right. I think improvisational artists struggle for any type of compensation, and in this day and age, it's even harder. But what preserves you guys, and what promotes, and what's keeps you together is the love on the bandstand. And I just wanted you to talk about that kind of feeling when you're up there playing with other people, connecting with them on a spiritual level, the same way that you saw Alice and Coltrane and Rashid Ali play, and how you've put your own bands together and collaborations throughout the years.
Well, yeah, it's like it's the best. It's one of the best things I've ever experienced. I don't know if I can even describe it. It's like connecting with people on a spiritual level in a group, right? And it's very hard to find a group of people. I think it extends over like all kinds of things. It can, like in sports right now, the Warriors, right?
Right.
With Curry, the same thing. It's a group of people that have the same spirit and they connect. And it's something. It's an energy. And then relating it back to like Ki and Chi, it's the same energy. It's energy that comes through you. I'm getting pretty far out here.
Well, that's what my show's. I want you to keep going, because this is what this is not fluff. I mean, when you go out, how do you go out? I mean, people need. I guess what I'm trying to say is that we're just living through a very conformist time right now. Some would say that there are parts of the country that are in a full-on police state. You look at incarceration rates across the country. The prison systems are bulging out of control. Nonconformity is seen as an illegal offense. So please talk about going out, being out.
I think, part of it, I think, is the conditions today. People are so stressed out because of all the stuff that's going on that it's like being able to open up yourself so that you can it can apply to meditation too, the same thing that yogis talk about, trying to free your mind of everything, emptiness, and let your mind go wherever it wants. I think that's the way I can describe it.
Is that what was going? Can you talk about and then you can co-join that with a musical collaboration? Like I did want to talk to you, Makoto, about I've talked to so many guys that have played it in Japantown at Jigogu. How do you spell Jigogu? And talk about that as a bastion of the opportunity for cats to woodshed.
Oh yeah, that was a wonderful experience. It was run by two Japanese sanseis. That means like third generation Japanese in this country, and Glenn and Warren, and so they presented like basically jazz music at the time, and the anchor to that club was Flip Nunez and Michael Howell and Eddie Marshall. They would play there on weekends, and then we'd play. I think we had a Tuesday or a Wednesday or something every week, and yeah, it was like people like Eddie Henderson would come down and play with us all the time. It was great. It was like a school, and I remember the drummer was taking from Eddie Moore, and he'd come down and play with us.
Yeah, Eddie Moore, man, that dude had a heart attack and died on the bandstand.
Yeah,
in Yoshi's. Yeah. But I mean, those cats were playing. I mean, that's the. I mean, it wasn't school though, because I mean, Eddie Moore was playing with Dewey Redmond and Eddie Marshall. Those guys were playing from the heavens. I mean, you can't play that in school, and that was street.
No, but I mean, the school in the sense of you got to play with these people and learn from them. You know.
Sure, absolutely.
And that's non-existent today.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the mentoring component. I mean, I talked to a drummer the other day, and I think he teaches over at Sonoma State drumming, and the best you can do now is have somebody from one university come over and check out your students at your university, but it's not at some dive club, serving quail eggs and sushi. At Jigogu, playing the dawn session. I mean, the dawn sessions to me, that was the epitome of learning who you were and what you needed to do to get better.
Yeah, it was some hard lessons too sometimes.
Can you talk about overcoming adversity with one of those lessons? Put an example of when you got humbled.
Oh, When I was first starting to get it together, all the time people were saying, "Oh, you can't play," blah, blah, blah. And I just have to go back to the woodshed and figure it out. I think most musicians go through that.
Can you give a specific example? I mean, because I think some people were probably trying to bully you too. But can you give an example of a time when someone tried to rattle you psychologically and?
I remember one time I was in a band and the bass player said, "Oh, I don't want him to play. He can't play." And I was struggling, so and everybody else was supportive to me, so we just went ahead.
Right, but it takes a lot of intestinal fortitude. Talking to Makoto Horiuchi, gifted guitarist, can you talk to the audience about what you think the great qualities of leadership are, and who the best leader that you worked under was?
Leadership qualities. In music, it's usually people who can show you a way to go, without getting in the way, right, of what you can do. It's to use another sports analogy, it's like you use people like what they do best, right?
Right.
And put them in a group and let them do what they do best. Yeah.
Who was the best leader you ever worked under?
I think Julian Priester, Julian Priester. That was one of the best bands I played in.
But as a leader, can you talk about some of the nonverbal leadership skills he displayed? Why was he the best leader you ever worked under?
He would never really say. He would always like tell you what the concept of what the piece was. And he always talked about the approach. It's the approach, and so how you approach the piece that you're playing. And then he would just let us play. The music was really free. I mean, it was really free music.
I can't wait to get into those tunes. I got to download them, and but you were part of the Marine Intrusion band, the original Marine Intrusion band.
It was the original version, and then I don't know. I think I started my own band or something, and after I left, I think Ray Obiedo joined the band, and Ron Stallings played. Daoud left too, and Ron Stallings joined the band.
It was Daoud Johnson, Makoto, Julian Priester. Who else was in the group?
Hashima Mark Williams, and he's been playing in the Bay Area a lot lately. I mean, he's like the number one stand-up bass player around here now. And then we had Augusta Collins on drums, great drummer. And then
where is that cat? Where is that cat? I've never heard of that cat.
Oh, he passed recently.
Oh.
And yeah, and
Augusta Collins.
He got into drugs.
Sure.
He got into heroin, and then I guess at one point he was homeless, and then he came back. He beat it. Came back and started playing guitar. Became a blues man and played around the Bay Area. I wish I would have. I never knew that until after he passed. After I read his,
Did you guys ever? I mean, so was there ever? I know that the Marine Intrusion, the second amalgamation, was able to get into the studio and cut an album. Was there ever any possibility of you guys? Did you ever cut any studio stuff together?
No, unfortunately, that was unfortunate that we did. I don't know why that never happened, but at the time you're just struggling to make ends meet, so you have to go do whatever you can to stay alive.
Were you playing places like the Keystone Corner? What kind of venues were you playing?
Mostly I was playing in Japantown because
with Marine Intrusion though you were?
Oh no. We had the 1 day a week with at Jigoku, but then I was playing like a Japanese businessman's club, and that kept me alive for a long time. Like we'd play. What do they call that? It's a form of Japanese pop music, and I think they call it enka, and so we'd start out the evening doing that, right? And then by the time the second or third set came around, everybody would be so drunk we could play whatever we want.
I wanted to, this is so important. I've interviewed guys like Emil Richards, percussionists, guys that were in the big bands in the 50s. They were going to Japan directly to play sort of goodwill tours after we destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Can you shed some light on why? My belief is that it was at that time that big band music that was really heading into bebop that made the Japanese fanatical for the art form of jazz. But why do you? Because out of all the Asian cultures, the most rabid music fans are the Japanese, and I was just wondering why that was.
Well, part of it was, the occupation. So they came in contact with black music that way. A lot of them worked at the bases and started hearing black music. And then, because a lot of my friends came from Japan to come over here to learn the music, which is, that's pretty interesting too. It's really interesting that all these people came to this country, and today that the music isn't even really played hardly.
Well, explain why they got off on black music.
the same reason you and I got off.
Because it's okay. So they were intoxicated with the rhythms and the groove, and they wanted to learn it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did you mention? Did you know this cat Seiji Ozawa?
No, but one time, I met him a couple of times. One time he came into that Japanese businessman's club. It was funny, man. And so we started playing some funk.
Oh, I love it.
And he got up and danced.
Dude, he was one of the most badass. He still is a badass conductor. I mean, he's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you, I guess, Makoto, I would love to continue this conversation. We kind of went all over the place today. We did. We have a lot more to get to. But I'm really fascinated getting down to the nuts and bolts of this Japanese intrusion of music, because the most active, rabid, hard-listening cats are the Japanese. I mean, Chinese aren't like that. I don't want to.
It's starting to spread. It's starting to spread in other parts of Asia, though.
That is true. Actually, But we'll go ahead.
Well, I just saw that Buster Williams and Paul Jackson played some Korean jazz festival, and I know somebody in Hong Kong is doing like R&B and blues. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm going to send you an audio file of this later, and we'll be in touch and set up a part 2 real soon, Makoto. Much love to you, man. Really, it was an honor to connect with you.
All right.
All right?
Hope it wasn't too scattered today.
All right. This is what it's about. I love it, man. We were all over the place. It was good. I'm sure you told some things you've never thought about for a long time, so that's my goal.
That's for sure.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Cheers.
Take care.
All right.
Nice talking to you.
You too,
Bye-bye.
man. Yeah, we'll be right back on the Jake Feinberg Show.
Help me, mama,